Hello and welcome to Synchronicity, talk radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie Bernard, and today we are speaking with Linda and Charlie Bloom. They are the authors of their latest book, Happily Ever After, and 39 other myths about love, breaking through to the relationship of your dreams. And you can find them at bloomwork.com. Welcome to the show, Linda and Charlie.
Glad to be here with you.
Hi, Charlie. Thanks so much for being with us. So you two have been married since 1972. You're best-selling authors. You're the founders and co-directors of Bloom Work, and you've lectured and taught seminars on relationships all over the United States and the world. You're coming to Canada in a couple of years, and you've been married since 1972. Can you tell us a little bit about how you met and how you got into this relationship counseling field?
Well, we were still undergraduates at the time we met. We were in college. We both went to college in Boston. Charlie's a graduate of Northeastern, and I went to undergraduate school at BU. And we had a mutual friend that just had a barbecue at his house. And I just was checking him out, and he looked pretty interesting to me. So we got into a deep conversation, and we've been together ever since. That was in 1968 in bell-bottom pants time.
Awesome. And Linda and Charlie, in reading through the book Happily Ever After, you share the story about how once you were married, things weren't as easy as you thought, which is probably why you also wrote the book 101 Things I Wish I Knew When I Got Married. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges that you faced as a couple?
Well, like most couples, we had a great honeymoon. All 3 days of it. No, it was pretty long actually. But we were both really young then, and like a lot of young people, we both kind of believed that we knew enough so that we didn't really have a lot to learn. At least that's what I thought. I was a little mistaken about that, but things we found out within within the first year that although we had a lot in common, we had some very significant differences. Not in terms of our values or in terms of what we really believed in, but just in terms of our personalities. Like a lot of couples, we were drawn to people who were very different than we are. And we get into that a little bit in the book about why it is that so many of us seem to attract people who are not just like us. And we wish that they were, but there's a reason why we're not attracted to people who are just like us. And we kind of began to find that out. And there's also a learning curve when it comes to being able to make the adjustment to living with a person who has a very different style than you have, because many of us, and I'm no exception to this, seem to think that our way is really the best way and the right way. And if everybody were more like me, the world would be a better place. So, we had a few challenges in that department. My main challenge was in being open to the possibility that I could actually be wrong about some of the things that I believed.
I don't believe that for a second, Charlie. How is that possible?
Very, very few men have that problem. I was one of the few who did.
And Linda, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, in addition to having very different styles of being in the world, Charlie's so introverted and he needs a lot of quiet time and solitude. And I'm an extrovert to the nth degree, and I'm social and I want to be engaged in conversation. And sometimes I was overbearing with him, and when he would need his quiet time, I would take it so personally and feel all rejected and hurt, and he doesn't love me, and we had to iron that one out. But in addition to the stylistic differences, and there were a number of those. We also didn't have very good skills in I didn't have good skills in negotiating for my needs, and I didn't have good conflict management skills. And so there was a lot that we needed to learn. And it was just rather shocking, because I believed in the myth of you fall in love and then it should just flow. I was such a romantic back in that day. I'm still romantic, but I'm more grounded in reality now. And I just thought that you just find somebody wonderful, and then you're going to just have, constant trust, and you're going to have constant cooperation and collaboration. And it was really alarming to me that we were so different in so many ways, and that we argued so much. Badly. We argued badly. We had to learn how to argue tactfully and respectfully. And so it was topsy-turvy there for a while. But we're good learners. We're hungry learners, and we've got that kind of dogged determination that it takes to learn the things that you need to learn, and to be willing to be wrong about some things. And we got our skill level up, and we matured, and then we were able to break through to a wonderful relationship. So our wound becomes our gift to our community, that we tell our before and after stories. People seem to be inspired by them.
Awesome. Well, and you also host workshops and do teaching. If anyone's interested in that, you can go to bloomwork.com. And I'm curious, at what point did you start providing services as relationship counselors? When did you start teaching this to other people?
Well, we were teaching. Charlie was teaching in the 80s, when we were having a pretty difficult time in our relationship. When we started teaching together was in 86. We were already starting to come into the more self-aware part of our life, and the more harmonious, collaborative part of our life. So we've been teaching workshops together since 1986.
Beautiful. And I'm just curious how teaching together has changed and strengthened your relationship.
Well, that was kind of rocky at first too, because I was teaching large group seminars for a big company, and I had been trained to do that, and I was doing it for several years, leading the groups alone. And after a few years, I got clear that it was time for me to move on and become independent. And Linda and I, at that point, were beginning to consider teaching together, because there was so many of the issues that were coming up in the courses that I was teaching had to do with relationships. And at that point, we had been through quite a bit together, dealing with our own challenges, but we had learned quite a bit in the 20 years or so that we had been together. And so we decided to put together a workshop and start offering it, and it went very well. I mean, we were doing them all over the country, and we had good attendance, and we got very good reviews, and things went really well. But there was definitely a learning curve, because I was not accustomed to having to be a collaborator with a co-leader, and particularly somebody who was relatively inexperienced, as Linda was. And I had to really start putting into practice some of the things that we were teaching about, in terms of support and acceptance and non-judgment and patience, and the willingness to be wrong and to be open to other ways of doing it. So there was a while there that we both had some adjustments to make, but that became part of what we were able to teach. We were actually learning a lot of the things on a deeper level that we were teaching people. It wasn't just theory, and that's one of the reasons I think why we're able to continue doing this work after so many years. that we don't just teach from a textbook or a script, but we really teach from the experiences that we've learned together, dealing with some of the challenges that inevitably confront couples, and from the things that we've learned from couples who have been in our workshops too.
And I think it's a big advantage for the students to have a couple teaching a relationship and communication course, to get both the male and the female point of view, and to get the extrovert and the introvert point of view, and to see how they teach together and see how they operate together, because I think people are really hungry for models. Sometimes they've rejected their family of origin models and they don't want to have a partnership like that, but they're really seeking, how do people share power well? How do people negotiate for their needs well? How do they handle their differences? And we do all of that live in the class. We do some before and after skits to show them when we did it badly, contrasted with how we do it well now, when we get really vulnerable with each other and talk about what we're afraid of, and what hurts and what our needs are. So that seems to be really key, that the couples to thrive in all the best relationships, they create a atmosphere of safety for people to really come out of hiding and show their true tender selves.
Beautiful. I love that. We are speaking right now with Linda and Charlie Bloom. They are the authors of their latest book, Happily Ever After, and 39 other myths about love, breaking through to the relationship of your dreams. And they do workshops and teach all around the United States and the world. You can go to their website, bloomwork.com, if you want more information about that. And I love what you said about modeling, because I think a lot of us are so hungry for new information, and then we get that sort of dopamine hit from those aha moments. But if we're not actually able to see it in action or put it into action in our own lives, it just kind of falls away, and we get that sort of instant gratification of a new understanding, but it doesn't actually make a difference in our lives. Have you found that?
Yes, the old habits die out very slowly. And some of these habits have been in the family for generations, going back to the old country. And so we might have an epiphany and realize something and really have an insight, but till we can embody it, until we can consistently live it in our relationships, the kind of self-discipline and the active listening and the stretching into our partner's world and be generous of spirit, all of these things that bring the relationship up some notches. It's a piece of work. It's a labor of love, but the benefits are tremendous when it starts to work for you. And so it's so worth the time and effort that you put in to learn and to practice until you get good at it.
Charlie, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, it made me, I was thinking, as Linda was saying, that one of the myths that we write about in the book has to do with the notion that relationships are hard work. And I'm not disputing that at all. They do require, particularly in the early stages when we're really kind of brilling our way through it and learning more about ourselves and each other, it really does require some effort to restrain some of our impulses to do or say things that are not skillful. But what a lot of people are not aware of is that when we are in those stages and we're doing that work and we're overriding and neutralizing some of the old defensive impulses that we all bring into relationships, that those patterns begin to diminish and fade. And that when they do, it doesn't require the same level of work and effort to stay on the new path, because we've integrated some of those patterns, some of the new patterns into our lives. And it becomes natural and relatively effortless to make those changes once we've installed that software into our program. And we really try to encourage people to hang in there, because it is not going to be hard work forever. We've been together for a long time, and we've been out of that stage of, having to really do the hard work for quite a few years. And it's not that we never have any difficulties anymore. It's not that we never see things differently. It's not that we ever have our moments. But that's really all they are, is just moments. And we're able, because of the skills that we've learned and the new habits that we've taken on, we've learned to move through those breakdowns that in the past would be a serious crisis in just a few moments, very briefly, and we're in it briefly, and because we don't reinforce the negative patterns by being argumentative and defensive, and we're able to be more vulnerable, we get through those moments very quickly, and they don't occur very often. So we really try to bring that perspective to people. So because it's just so easy to get discouraged when you think, geez, this is really tough. I can't do this forever. And no, you don't have to do it forever, but you have to make the effort for a while before you do get to that place where it's relatively effortless.
So, Charlie, it sounds like you're saying almost like when we learn to drive a car or to play the guitar, like any skill that is really different and new to us is going to take a lot of work in the beginning. And then once we rewire our brains so that we have that memory there, it becomes almost effortless, unless something else, a new element comes into play.
Yeah, that's a perfect metaphor. That's exactly what I'm saying. And, there's all different levels that you can take this to. Many of the couples that we work with are satisfied to get to a place where they're getting along reasonably well and they don't fight very much and things are, pretty comfortable most of the time, which is fine. I mean, that's up to them. But you can go further than that. And for most people, many people anyway, they don't even have an image of what's beyond that. And we try to help them to see what's possible, not because there's anything wrong with being satisfied with that level of fulfillment, but just to see that there are other possibilities available that you may not even be able to conceive of.
Linda, did you have anything to add to that?
Yes, we're always encouraging people to let their imagination be big, because there's a lot of mythology about you need to keep your expectations low and then you won't be so disappointed. And when we're teaching our classes and working with couples, we say, let your imagination be big. Have big expectations as long as you have a big intention to match it. Because if you've got some motivation and you've got some fire in the belly and you've got some intentionality, do you know that sky's the limit? You can create an awesome thing. And you're inspiring your partner may, really help them to get in touch with some dreams that they may have stashed back when they were teenagers, or maybe they were in their early 20s. And so you may have to go back a ways before you were disappointed and before you were frustrated, and take some of those old dreams out of mothballs and dream some new dreams. We call it going for the gold. Like the athletes train and they want to earn the gold medal. And while you're in relationship, why not go for the gold and have the best one that you could co-create?
I love that, Linda. And I just want to say again, we are speaking right now with Linda and Charlie Bloom. They're the authors of Happily Ever After and 39 Other Myths About Love, Breaking Through to the Relationship of Your Dreams. And they have a couple other books and workshops and more information at their website, bloomwork.com. And just on the cover of the book, I've read the foreword by Susan Campbell, who's been on the show. She's the author of, if I'm thinking of the right Susan Campbell, 5-Minute Relationship Repair.
Right.
And she and Dr. Stan Tatkin, who they have made such an impact in my life. And when you were talking about the relationships that people can't even imagine because they've never seen it modeled before, I mean, we don't even know the kind of things that are available to us if it's not anything we've ever seen before.
That's right. I mean, you literally can't conceive of something that you haven't experienced in some way. It's only, I mean, if you may have seen it in a movie or a TV show, but it doesn't feel like it's a real possibility for me unless I've had a taste, at least a taste of that, a glimpse of what that really looks like in real time, in real life. So when people can begin to have an experience of that and to recognize what that is, that's even beyond their imagination, and to see that it is something that with the intention, with the motivation, with the skill, with the practices, with that level of intentionality, it is possible to create that kind of a relationship. So just to be a little bit more specific and get out of the abstract about having, an unimaginably wonderful relationship. One of the things that some of the things that characterize that kind of a relationship are level of deep unconditional safety and trust that is so strong that there's never any need for either person to feel insecure about the relationship ending if they bring their unconditional self to it, if they bring their authenticity to the relationship. Now, it doesn't mean that when you have reached this level of connection in a relationship that there's no possibility that it could ever end in divorce. It's just much less likely because most divorces occur because people don't have this experience in the relationship. And when their deeper needs get met, when their needs for love, for acceptance, for trust, for safety, for partnership, for intimacy, when these needs are really fulfilled, it becomes much less likely because there's first of all, there's an awareness that we've really earned this gift that we have to share with each other now. And we've worked for it. And why would we want to jeopardize something that's so valuable that we've worked so hard for? We've got it with each other, even though it might be possible to create this same level of connection with another person. Why would I want to give this up simply because, we're having some differences here? That feeling of security, of trust, the feeling that I can be whoever I am in my life, that I don't have to continue to make sure that I show up in this relationship as the person that I'm expected to be, because I'm loved for who I am, not because of what I do or because of what I bring materially into it. I'm loved for myself. And it's a place where we can play, we can relax, we can have fun together, because there's not a lot of stress or tension, because we're both relaxed and feeling secure. So the rest of my life is more open and free too. I'm not living in insecurity and fear and wondering what's going to happen if I do or say the wrong thing, because I know that I have been forgiven for my lapses, and I trust that my partner will feel the same way towards me if I do make a mistake, or if I have a bad moment when I inadvertently say something that is hurtful, that I know that we can handle that, we can clean that up. So it's not just about creating a great connection with another person. It's about freeing yourself to live fully and openly and freely and authentically in my life. That's a big thing.
I love that, Charlie. And I think it was you, Charlie, who were mentioning how in relationships we kind of get this, well, my way is the right way. So if you don't agree with me, you must be wrong. And that's going on a lot in the world. I mean, it's always been an issue, but it seems to be mounting in politics and world events. And I'm wondering your experience or your opinion on how this helps you relate to other people, other life circumstances when you're living this way within your relationship.
The contrast can be very sharp, that when you get used to being yourself and being at ease and feeling securely bonded, and there are no subjects that are taboo, and you know that you can talk about anything, and you're bringing out the best in each other, when you go out into the rest of the world and you see how frightened people are and how defended people can be, and that they're not bringing out the best in each other, and people are living with a lot of tension and stress and worry and fear. But if we can stay grounded and centered in that way of being, it's contagious. So when we take our happy self out into the world and we interface with other people, we may be able to take the level of the conversation from the superficial down into something that has more heart and meaning. And I think a lot of people do want to speak that way, but they're reading the cues from the people around them who want to keep it superficial and stay with the same subjects and talk about the ball team and the weather and not go to the things that are most important to them and most meaningful to them. So I believe that if you can do it in the romantic partnership, that's really challenging because you've got to get up and face that person every day. And if you can do it there, you can begin to take that out into your family and your friendship network and the workplace and with your neighbors, and that it has a radiating effect to the larger community around you, because you're coming from that place of feeling full and feeling happy, and there's enough to go around, and there's enough to share. And the world really needs a lot more love because there's a tremendous amount of fear that's squeezing it out. So every couple and every family are the little units of the society that the whole culture is based on. So if everybody takes responsibility on themselves to make their little corner of the world a lot more sane, a lot more caring, a lot more empathic and loving, it's going to become a much better world.
Charlie, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I see it that way too. And when two people are on the same page and they're operating on the same wavelength, there is really very little distinction between what it is that we are creating together here in our little world and the impact that it has on the world outside of our relationship. It becomes very obvious that, like the saying goes, I think it's a quote from Gandhi, to be the change that you want to see in the world. Be the person that you want to see populating the world out there. Be in the relationship that you want to see other people in, a relationship that's characterized by trust and goodwill and mutual support and compassion. And we see that this really does matter. It does make a difference. It does translate, personal and interpersonal relationship changes, translate into having an impact on the culture at large. So both Linda and I have, we share values of wanting to contribute to the world, of wanting to make a difference. And we see that it's not a matter of having to choose between, well, are we going to work on our relationship and ourselves, or are we going to be, social change agents in the world? It's all one. I mean, that's really how we both see it. And we get feedback from people who have, experienced being in our world, whether they're friends or family or workshop participants or people who have read the books, that it is making a difference to us, that the way we are living is helping them to live more consciously and with more respect and sensitivity, and how that's affecting their kids and how that's affecting their kids' friends. And so, yeah, I'm in total agreement with what Linda said.
Thank you. Again, we are speaking with Linda and Charlie Bloom. They are the authors of Happily Ever After and 39 Other Myths About Love, Breaking Through to the Relationship of Your Dreams. They've also authored 101 Things I Wish I Knew When I Got Married, and they have, I believe, one other book, and they do a bunch of workshops across the United States. They'll even be coming to Canada. So you can go to their website, bloomwork.com, if you want more information about that. I'm wondering, I have been interviewing a lot of relationship experts over the last few years, and I recently ended the most amazing relationship of my life because he was so willing to do this work, do the 5-minute relationship repair and the Stan Tatkin stuff. And we grew together so much. And I got to the point where there were still some fears about, he's significantly younger than me and not quite sure about where his life is headed, and it was triggering all these old fears from my childhood of not getting what I need. And so I ended the relationship, but in the month and a bit that we've been broken up, I've been really doing more work on myself, and what I'm starting to see, and I was sort of seeing it in the relationship, was that it doesn't matter how much money my partner has or how much attention he is able to give me or whether he's able to be home every night at the end of his day. If I don't feel safe in the world, he can't fix all of that for me. What are your thoughts about that?
You're hitting upon one of the beliefs and the myths that we talk about in the book, that when I find love, it's going to redeem me from all of my past suffering. I'm never going to be lonely again. It's a preposterous idea that one human being is going to be able to handle all of that. And so to be aware that we can do a lot of soul making with a person and it may not last for a lifetime. This man that you did so much work with, I think he's a soulmate. Mm-hmm. The people usually think about soulmates that it's the one and only, as if there's only one person in the world, and that it's going to be forever, and that's not necessarily the case. But we have people come into our life for a time, and you're a catalyst to his growth, and he's a catalyst to your growth. And it may be that he's in a different stage of life from you, and that you're not a good match just because of the different life stages. Or maybe you're just going through a really rough time and that you'll break through to another level of understanding, and it's too early to be able to tell right now. But when people are at those very precarious places where it's painful and confusing and you feel like you're sort of muddling around, I do think it's so helpful to get some guidance from somebody that you really trust, somebody who is in the graduating classes ahead of you that may be able to shed some light where there's so much darkness. And that sometimes people are shy and bashful, and sometimes they're arrogant and think they already know, and that they don't reach out to the clergy and to older, wiser relatives. Sometimes people are blessed to have a wise relative, or the professional community, to get some guidance when they're feeling at an impasse. It may be just the darkest hour before the dawn, as the saying goes, or just a place that's really clogged up, and there could be a breakthrough. And to be in Don't Know Mind, maybe there's some big life lessons in this for you right now, and for him too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Linda. Charlie, did you have anything to add?
No, I'm with what you just said. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, one of the things that I've learned in the time that we've been broken up, again, was this, there's nothing that is going to fill that hole. I mean, the relationship and the work that we've done has healed me a lot, but it wasn't him fixing me. It was the safety of our bond giving that space for me to take responsibility for myself.
That's a really important distinction, Ray, that you're making, because it's so easy to mistake the space that's available to you if you take responsibility for doing your work, and confuse that with, oh, that other person freed me, or they're the ones who made this happen. But no, nobody else can do it for you. And no matter how much they give you, ultimately, it's still up to you. Now, if they provided a safe, supportive, loving, accepting space, then it certainly makes it an awful lot easier for you to be vulnerable and to step in there and do your work than if you're always concerned about being judged or misunderstood, or feeling insecure. But ultimately, it's all our own work. We don't even like talking, using the phrase working on your relationship, because it suggests that there's an entity there that is separate from us as individuals, and that's what we have to focus on. The work is really always about ourselves and about developing the qualities that will enhance our life and the relationship, identifying what those qualities are, and then looking at what the practices are that I can take on that can strengthen those qualities, like trust and support and honesty and integrity and vulnerability and courage. I mean, really looking at what is it that I want to strengthen that I know will make me a better person, because I know that that's what is going to feed the relationship, rather than looking at, what do we have to do to fix this relationship? We don't have to fix the relationship. We don't have to fix ourselves. We just have to get really clear about who we are and what our work is to honor the truth of who that person is, moment to moment.
I'm just loving this conversation. I feel my heart just so open and feeling so peaceful. Thank you for that. We are speaking right now with Linda and Charlie Bloom. They're the authors of their latest book, Happily Ever After, and 39 Other Myths About Love, Breaking Through to the Relationship of Your Dreams. And you can find them at bloomwork.com. And oh my gosh, there's so many. I wanted to ask you about, because we're talking about how all this work really is within ourselves, but what's the difference between, we're talking about having unconditional acceptance and love for our partner, and at the same time having boundaries and expectations of what we want for our relationship. So what's the difference? Where's the line?
Well, we didn't write about unconditional love as a myth, but I tend to believe that it is. Do you know, to speak about unconditional love, it's a goal to strive towards, but we're all so imperfect. It's like striving towards perfection. I think it's much more realistic to think that we could go towards excellence rather than the unconditional love. And to have an abundant love, to have a pure love, to have an excellent love, to be able to be patient and committed, and to have boundaries about this is acceptable to me, but that is not acceptable to me. This would work for me, but this is not going to work for me. And I could stretch into your world, but I would like some reciprocation for you to stretch into my world like this. That in my parents' generation, they didn't really have to negotiate for their needs that much because the society put a script in their hand about this is what a wife does and this is what a husband does. And definitely in my grandparents' generation. So we're trying to do something that's new, that hasn't been done in history. And part of what we need to do is to learn how to love big, love abundantly, love fully, love purely, and that includes ourselves, to be generous of spirit to our partner and not to leave ourselves out, to find out what they want and support them to help them get it, and to know what we want and to be on purpose about that. This is quite a balancing act. This is quite a juggling act. There are a lot of moving pieces, and I think people have huge expectations of what they want partnership to be, but they don't really appreciate how many different skill sets and how many qualities we need to grow in ourselves to be eligible for that kind of relationship that's so, so wonderful that we dream of and long for.
It's like a dialectical approach to life. It's not, we can be in service to our relationship, to our partners, and to the world, and it's not at the expense of our well-being.
That's exactly right. And marriage is going out of style these days. It's not in vogue. And there are more single women in the United States than married women for the first time in history. And I think so many people have a bad attitude about marriage because they think it's work and it's sacrifice and all the things you have to give up and it's so hard, without realizing that with some effort, with a concerted amount of effort, that the bonanza of benefits are so rewarding. Do you know, to have somebody who knows you really deeply, knows your flaws, knows your magnificent failures, knows the mistakes that you've made, knows your fears and insecurities and your greatness and your magnificence. And sometimes our partner can see us more clearly than we can see ourselves. And they see our strengths, they see our gifts to be given into the world, and they're the believing eyes when we are not quite clear who it is that we are and what our gifts are, what our purpose is, what our mission is. And to have somebody who deeply knows us, who are committed to our well-being, because there's a lot in it for them to be committed to our well-being, because it all comes spilling back on them. That's what we refer to as enlightened self-interest. And they want us to succeed because the happier we are and the more fulfilled, the happier they can be and the more fulfilled when the relationship is really smoking and flowing.
That is delicious. Charlie, do you have anything to add to that?
No, Linda keeps saying everything that I was going to.
Well, we're speaking with Linda and Charlie Bloom. They're the authors of Happily Ever After and 39 Other Myths About Love, Breaking Through to the Relationship of Your Dreams. You could find them at bloomwork.com. And we are running short on time. And I'm wondering, I would love to know more about the types of workshops you do or some more details about that. But where would you like to take the rest of this conversation?
Well, trying to put myself in the mind of your listeners and speak to any questions that they might have. I guess the question that often comes up for me when I'm listening to somebody talking about creating something really new and exciting is exactly how does this translate into the practical world? How I understand that I have to do my own work, and I've heard that before, and I know what that means. But what if I don't know what my work is? How do I find out what it is? The self-help books don't tell me exactly what my work is, and I know that everyone has got their own. So how do I find out about what that is? So I'm imagining that there may be one or two people out there who might have that question.
Absolutely.
So let me just give it a shot. First, the first thing is to acknowledge yourself for asking a very important question, and one that most people don't ever get around to asking. So that's a really good thing, and it shows that you're on the right track because you're looking at things from the perspective of what is my responsibility here? What is it that I need to be clear about, and what do I need to do? And that is the cure for victimitis, which is the feeling that I'm not a powerful, effective agency in my world, and I just my job is to find the correct person. Well, it's not necessarily about just finding the right person. You want to find somebody with whom you're a good fit, but you can't stop there. And in order to find out what your work is in your life and in your relationship, it's really necessary to hold yourself as the responsible agent and to notice when and how you might be deflecting your responsibility onto other people, or blaming them because things aren't going well, or blaming your past, or blaming your parents, or blaming your current partner because they don't quite understand you. To look instead at what is it that I can do to be the kind of a person that people want to be honest with, that people trust to be vulnerable with. What more can I do to be a safe place for people, for them to feel, Marie, like you said, you just felt a few minutes ago talking to us, that this is really exciting and it's stimulating something in you that feels more alive. How can I be that kind of a person that will draw people who want to be more connected and more awake and more alive into my life? What can I do? What is it that I'm doing now that maybe might be diminishing that might be getting in the way? What can I do more of? Can I be more honest? Can I be more willing to take risks? Can I be more considerate of other people's needs and not so self-centered? Can I practice generosity of spirit more? These are some of the things that will help you to, it's not so much about finding all the right answers, it's about asking the right questions. And one of the best questions to ask is, how can I be the person that will draw the kind of person into my life that I want to be connected with, whether it's as a life partner or a friend or a lover or whatever. So that would be a really good place to start.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you, Charlie. Linda, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I just think that there's enormous potential that is available when people start to wrap their mind around every incident that happens in a romantic partnership is grist for the mill to learn about myself, to learn about the world. It's a growth opportunity. And some of the most difficult patches that we go through, they're the ones where we're really motivated by the discomfort to learn some of our deepest life lessons. And so rather than being in this mindset about, relationships are disposable and when they get difficult, oh, get another one, to really see if you can go deeper, to see whether something about your own shadow self is being mirrored back about this by this person, something that you need to own in yourself, maybe something that you need to grow in yourself, something that maybe you need to let go of in yourself, and that the closest relationships are the ones that are going to be the catalysts for our growth, and to use our closest relationships as the growth of opportunity that they really are. Because we're all have so much untapped potential. And if there's anything I hate, it's waste. I just can't stand waste. And I want to see all of us, using our intellectual potential, develop our emotional intelligence, even our physical, potential. Most people don't use the strength in their body and their athletic gifts, and to really develop ourselves more. And there isn't anything like a close relationship that will prompt us to evolve into who we can be.
Thank you for that. And just because I'm sure there are people who really are curious about how they might be able to work with you or learn more from you, again, obviously you can pick up the book Happily Ever After and 39 Other Myths About Love, Breaking Through to the Relationship of Your Dreams. And you can go to bloomwork.com. But what is maybe, in addition to those amazing questions that Charlie provided, what might be a first step for anyone listening who wants to know how they can get more help with this stuff?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're welcome to come to a workshop with us if they want to come. On the East Coast, we teach at Kripalu in Massachusetts. On the West Coast, we teach at Esalen Institute, and other places they can find it on our website. But if they really are ready, the teacher will appear, and they can find a relationship coach, good couples counselor in their area where they are. There's some really inspirational things on the web. We have blogs. We have more than 200 blogs, lots of free things all over the web. And when people say, I'm really ready to take this relationship game on in a higher way, in a more meaningful way, in a more dedicated way, they will find the books, they will find the teachers, they will find the workshops, they will find the DVDs, they will find which will help nudge them along their path and inspire them to keep on going.
Linda, thank you for mentioning that, because I think that so much of the time people who are striving to be better, we get stuck and kind of chasing our tails and trying to find more information, and we don't quite get it because maybe we're not ready for that next step. And I'm just wondering if maybe just asking, what is my next step? And not, instead of searching for the right answer, just being willing to sit with that question.
Yeah, I think that there's an awful lot to be said for being with the questions as opposed to finding the answers. I think sometimes the actual quest for the answers, the process of trying to find them, interferes with our ability to hear that quiet voice of knowing that's within all of us, that just doesn't speak as loudly as some of the other voices that come into our mind. And in order to do that, we really do have to quiet down the other voices and just be in stillness.
And there's a wonderful practice of just checking inside and then reporting out to somebody who is dear to us. If we have a partner, to check in with them and report out what's going on with us, what we're experiencing, what we're dreaming of, what we're visioning, what we're bothered by, and give them a chance to check into themselves and to speak with us at least once a week. I think a daily practice is even better, but it's a mindfulness practice. And I get the biggest kick out of I hear from a lot of people with each one of our 3 books, that they take our book and take a little passage from it, and one of them will read it out loud to the other one, and they use that as a jumping off place to have a deeper discussion about, what does commitment mean to you? What is a fair fight? Do you believe that you're under the gas of this myth? Do you agree with this? Is this something that's tripping you up that you want to let go of? So I think that there's some wonderful books and some wonderful catalysts for people to utilize to go deeper into their own truth and exchange that with another.
Thank you, Linda. I just want to be respectful of your time. Do you have time to spend a couple more minutes talking?
Yeah.
Perfect.
A couple, not much more though.
Okay. So I'm just wondering, I'm just getting ready to wrap up the show, and I want to just I so appreciate your time, Linda and Charlie, your presence, and just the gift that you're providing in doing your work and supporting others in doing their work. Again, the book is Happily Ever After and 39 Other Myths About Love. And you can go to their website, bloomwork.com, if you want to access those blogs or any other resources, workshops, all of that. And I'm just wondering, before we say goodbye, if there's anything else that you would like to share before we close the show.
In our first book, 101 Things I Wish I Knew I Got Married, the very last one-liner in the book, the 101st thing I wish I knew, is the amount of fulfillment and joy that is available in a fully connected, committed partnership is greater than anything that you can imagine, and worth much more than the effort it takes to create it. That's what I'd like to leave people with. And whether you believe that or not, just to hold it as a possibility. Just to hold it as a possibility. Because during those times when doing the work can get frustrating or tiring, we need something to help us hang in there during the discouragement or the frustration. And we all hit that from time to time. So just to hold that as a possibility.
And I have a practical tip to offer to the listening audience. And I want to refer to our book number 2, which is Secrets of Great Marriages, Real Truths from Real Couples About Lasting Love. That we put that book together because we had so many people tell us, I don't know one happy couple. And Charlie and I would say, well, we know lots of happy couples. We're a happy couple and we know a bunch of happy couples. They really are out there. So a practical tip that I would offer the listeners is to look around in your life and see who you feel is happy, and particularly the couples that are happy. And take a look and see what it is that you're admiring about their relationship. Maybe their relationship is a safe haven, in the storm. Or maybe it's a well-stocked base camp and they're making all kinds of risky career moves and doing a lot of things with their life because they've got that secure bond to come back to. Or maybe they're having so much fun, or maybe they're spiritually developing, and see what it is. You might not find one couple that exemplifies where you would like to go. You may have a composite that you pick a little from this and a little, and these ones are terrific parents, but they really take a lot of time for romance, even though they're devoted with their kids. And you make a collage out of some of the happy couples that you see, because they really are out there, and that it's possible for you to become one of those happy couples. You got to pay some dues to get it, but it's dues really well spent.
Thank you so much, Linda and Charlie. We are out of time now, and it has been such a pleasure. Again, thank you for your work. Thank you for the book, Happily Ever After and 39 Other Myths About Love. Bloomwork.com is the website. Thank you to Charlie and Linda Bloom. Thank you for listening. If you found this helpful or inspiring in any way, please, I invite you to share it. And you can go to my website, mariebenard.com, or my YouTube, youtube.com/spiritual show. Thank you again. And I want to send both of you and the listening audience lots of love. Namaste.